science fiction and fantasy.
A preview of a special exhibit on Duke Ellington.
A theater devotee who sees an average of 97.75 plays a year.
And a look at the University of Minnesota and its contributions to our cultural life.
A song from Yolanda of More by Four.
And the word on the Minneapolis Music Expo, and a lot more.
Artifacts is hummin'. Stay tuned for a great show.
Well, welcome to Artifacts, the show on City Cable 34 in which we talk about the arts and related issues. I'm Phill Lindsay from the MCDA.
And I'm Zahn with the Office of Film, Video, and Recording for the City of Minneapolis.
Now, we've already given you just a little hint of the show we have in store, and hey, it gets even better. Many of you will be familiar with my first guests, authors Emma Bull, Will Shetterly, and Lawrence Sutin. We'll have a great discussion, and then we'll follow that with a visit to the Minneapolis Public Library and its new Duke Ellington exhibit. Jazz lovers, take note.
Then Phill welcomes Merle Loppnow, who went to his first play, Uncle Tom's Cabin, in 1914 and has been going to plays ever since. Lots and lots of plays. He's got a wealth of theater knowledge and some really great stories to tell.
Now after that, Trow, also from the University of Minnesota, will be here to talk with us about that institution's role in bringing culture to the great state of Minnesota.
And then I'll be back with some great music from Yolanda and Tom West, and Pete Rhodes will have the news on the upcoming Minneapolis Music Expo.
I think you're going to like this show. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
So here we go. We'll be right back with Emma Bull, Will Shetterly, and Lawrence Sutin right after this.
Action, action, action!
Well, it's a real pleasure to introduce my next three guests. Actually, individually, they're people I've hoped to have on Artifacts for a long time. And I'd like to introduce to you Larry Sutin, who's a biographer, an author in town. Emma Bull, likewise, but she's also a musician. And Will Shetterly, another writer, author, and a bit of a movie producer, as I take it.
Would be.
Would be, okay. Well, we'll conjugate verbs later. So thank you all for being on here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Basically, this is a segment in which we're going to talk about what I'm labeling science fiction and fantasy as a genre, or paired genres. I thought we might talk a little bit about your experiences publishing, writing, trying to get published. You two have been, you're a married couple for one thing, and you co-edit a well-known series of books. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you got started working together?
Sure.
We'll start anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Well, it all began in 1975, way back when we went to college together at Beloit, Wisconsin. And we did the college literary magazine.
No, it was even better than that. We created a revolutionary new college literary magazine because we decided that the old one was too stuffy and too much of the editor's
Is this
friends.
the old Beloit Poetry Journal times?
No. The Beloit Poetry Journal is actually a little magazine that functions more or less independently of the college, except that it was edited by some of our favorite English professors, including Marion and David Stocking at the time.
Okay.
But no, this was, I forget what the name of the actual thing was. And we looked around and said, every year they pick an editor, the editor goes out to their 6 friends, the 6 friends write the poetry, and there it is. We're tired of this, we want something weird. So we put out it wasn't photocopied, it was offset printed.
Yeah, well, we essentially realized that they were spending a lot of money to have a very pretty thing that came out once a quarter, and we could spend like a third the money and have like 4 or 5 things that
Something that came out every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that would be really ugly, but that wasn't the point.
Right.
You know, it was,
Right.
you know, the work was neat.
And you didn't publish your friends, I take it?
Well, we didn't just publish our friends.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
you know,
We
part
made
of
a
the
lot
point
of friends by publishing
By
people we didn't
publishing
know.
them, I see.
Yeah.
So you met in
but
college,
to
you're
fast
doing this.
forward,
Yeah.
we got back together years later, around 1980, in Minneapolis.
Something like that.
And a group of Minneapolis writers who had never been published decided to form a writers group called the Scribblies. And that
Actually, it was called the Interstate Writers Workshop, the initials of which are IWW, which meant that we could call ourselves the Scribblies instead of, say, the Wobblies. But
yeah.
Don't mourn right.
stupid in
it's
jokes
a dumb
anyway.
labor joke, okay.
And the members of the Scribblies were Stephen Brust, Patricia C. Reedy, Cara Dalkey, Pamela Dean, and the two of us.
Nate Buckland.
And the and we get to be very, very proud of that group because we have 100% success in terms of being published. All the six I've mentioned all have novels out, and Nate Buckland, who was a member for a couple of years, has had a few short stories published.
Oh, congratulations.
So it was.
So you met in the context of writing. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really how you met, and it sounds like from
Actually,
early on.
we met in the context of science fiction, which is that thing that people who love books do, which is sit down in front of one set of bookshelves or another, depending on whose house you're in, looking at the bookshelf saying, oh, I've read that. That was really good. Did you like it when he did so-and-so?
Maybe share
Or
that a little
if
bit.
you like that one, have you read this book
Yeah.
over here by this person? Have you heard of them? People who love books do that, and that's usually how people who love books meet and
Well,
find out whether they can stand to
me-
be in the same room.
Let's jump over here to Larry. Do you have a similar story to tell, or are you more normal?
Well, no, I hope I'm not more
Never.
normal, but you know,
Never.
I write on a lot of different areas, science fiction of which is one, but I'm a very weird duck, is sort of sometimes labeled a science fiction biographer. How many of those exist? But you know, I love science fiction and fantasy. I think it's a a very underappreciated genre, despite the fact that it's grown so much in popularity. And I was fascinated with Philip K. Dick once upon a time, back in the 1970s, and started to read his work. And then I read the Minneapolis, I seldom read the paper, but one day I was reading the Minneapolis Tribune, and there was a little box with the heading Death Elsewhere. And that was a notice that Philip K. Dick had died. And even though I was gainfully employed at the time, I thought, well, screw this great gainful employment. I should go find out about the life of Philip K. Dick. And I ultimately did that and wrote a book about him because I loved his
In
stuff.
fact, right here is a copy of that book, which long before I actually met you, I saw this over to Uncle Hugo's, and I said, I'm interested in Dick. I might as well pick this up. And then to my surprise, found out that the author of this book was living here in the Twin Cities area.
Go
so.
figure.
Yeah, that's great.
Death Elsewhere.
Death
That's
Elsewhere
such a
was the
wonderfully-
headline.
Philip K. Dick couldn't have made that.
Absolutely.
He would have made it up.
It was
and
one of
said,
his little
"That would be
Ubik
great."
notes in the urinal directed to me.
Yeah.
Just a chance memo, and I caught it.
That's right. So you're going to have to read the book here to get the key to half of what he's talking about here, the Ubik notes there.
What was the gainful employment you gave up?
I used to be a lawyer.
A lawyer.
I'm very
Ah.
sorry. It was long ago. Forgive me.
We all make
It's all right.
mistakes.
I'm no longer certified to practice.
Bless you for
so-
finding yourself. That's quite
Absolutely,
impressive.
yeah.
I worked
Good.
for Control Data for a while.
Yeah, well, we've all paid our
I
dues,
got
I'm
it.
Folks,
sure.
this
I got
isn't
better.
Donahue here now, okay? We're here to talk about art and literature, if you don't
Confession,
mind.
confession, I did
He
it.
asked,
good.
but I would like to express my appreciation for the work of these two writers and others who have made Minneapolis and St. Paul the setting of science fiction and
Yes.
fantasy,
Yes.
which I find as a reader thrilling to walk and talk in a city that now has novels that use it in those
Yes.
settings. I
Yes.
really do. And War for the Oak stands out for me. I can't walk down the Nicollet Mall without envisioning that opening chase scene in Emma
Exactly,
Gold's
Larry.
novel.
I have the same image embedded in my
Yes.
mind. That dog chased me down. I can't go down there for,
Not in the dark.
Not
Don't
in the
do it
dark. I don't think I can even go down there for the farmer's market on Thursday afternoon. On that note, you were kind enough to provide the trailer for the film version, or soon-to-be film version.
Well, the something to encourage somebody else to spend a lot of money and turn it into a film is the
Okay.
the hope of that particular work.
Okay.
But
Well, we've
yeah.
got a clip from that, and I
Great.
think now might be the time to bring that up, take a look at it, and then we can talk exactly about that, this notion of bringing local scene and color into the writing. So let's take a look at a trailer for War for the Oaks.
If the unseelie court takes over, would we all be eaten in our beds?
There are places that belong to them.
looked like fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wrote the book, and it looks like more fun even than I had in mind, and I had a lot of fun in
Well, it's
mind.
interesting when media transform themselves. I mean, from the written to the visual or
Yeah,
something.
well, that's actually more of a tribute to the local film and video community, because a number of people from those communities worked on that. I mean, part of what makes Minneapolis such an exciting place is that there are so many exciting areas that are being developed. You know, the reason there's something like 30 or 40 published science fiction writers in the Twin Cities is because of all of the other exciting things that are happening around it that draws them. It's not that there's any one
Well, the synergy
source.
really does. I find a lot of people get kind of cross-pollinated with their ideas.
Yeah.
We should mention, too, that our camera operator, Jim Snapko, worked on that trailer for you as well.
That's right.
Boom operator, as I recall. So it is kind of a small world. Let's talk about current projects, things that are in the works. Larry, you're getting quite a bit of notice for a book on a much more serious note, but a wonderful effort on your part about your parents.
Yes, all right. I've written an autobiography of my parents. In other words, based on interviews with them, I've transcribed their lives surviving as Jewish partisans during the Holocaust in what is now Belarus or Eastern Poland. And that book has come out, if I may dare show it.
Oh, please, yes.
From Grey Wolf Press, a local press that was kind enough to put out this book, and which is now, doing well and receiving praise. And I'm very grateful because my parents' story is an amazing story.
You feel really grateful to your parents for having done this, so that when they had you and you grew up, you could have this neat story to tell.
Well, yes.
What a
I mean,
great
it was
thing.
sort of, but yes, on the one hand, as a writer, I felt as though I was being handed very important
Yeah,
material and very powerful material. On the other hand, quite honestly, I was happy I had published beforehand, so I didn't seem to be utilizing my parents' agony as a way of sort of wedging myself into the book business. So it worked out very well that I had learned my craft sufficiently to do justice to their story, and
Yeah.
they had a story that was very much worth telling.
I heard you read, I believe it was excerpts from it in process at the Jewish Community Center
Yes.
about a year and a half ago, and it's very affecting.
Well, thank
Powerful
you very
stuff.
much.
Yeah.
Had you seen Art Spiegelman's Mouse?
Yes.
Another example of sort of people. One of the things that I think that happens to artists is that you start to feel a certain responsibility. You say, all right, I finally got a craft, now I should try to do something with it that's not just for me,
Yes, no, it's true. I really, it's the one book in my life I think I will feel that I had a duty to write as opposed to a joy and choice in writing. It was just the material, again, I'm not saying this self-servingly, it's just a fact. The material was strong enough and unique enough and necessary enough that I, as a writer, could not get out of the road and avoid it.
Yeah.
That was my feeling.
Well, I
Well
think
said.
one of the things that makes people artists is that sort of sense of saying, all right, nobody else is doing this. I will be stupid enough to step forward, and whether I
Exactly.
succeed or fail, I'll make the attempt.
And the key is stupid enough, because to undertake a book project, you need a tad of that.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Yeah,
it's hard.
speaking of inspirations for things, and earlier we looked at some images from at least a visual interpretation of War for the Oaks. What was going in your mind when you're thinking, geez, I'm walking down the Nicollet Mall, there's this, I believe it's a black dog in...
Big black dog,
Big black
yeah.
dog following a character, your
Well,
alter ego.
alternating a dog and a guy who appear not to. It would never occur to you that they might be the same person, obviously, because they don't do that most of the time on the Nicollet Mall, turn back and forth from guy to dog and dog to guy. I moved to Minneapolis in 1976, and my family is the sort of place that my family is the kind of group of people that they don't really expect to be all living in the same state.
Are you talking geographically?
Geographically,
Okay.
yes. Well, we mostly live in the same state, and we carry it all with us, but we don't happen geographically to live in the same state. So when I got out of college, I looked for a place to move to. That's what we do. We send out little octopus tendrils. And I found Minneapolis, and I liked it a lot, and I lived here for a while. And when it came time to write my first novel, this was my opportunity to tell anybody else who might read the novel what a neat town this was, how much great stuff it had. There were reviews in the book that talked about going back and forth between the real Minneapolis setting and fairyland. And I always felt the urge to write the letter and say, but they never left Minneapolis. You don't get it. There is no transfer into fairyland. This is all happening in Minneapolis. I figured those people all lived someplace kind of icky, and I didn't want to have to rub it
Well,
in.
so they missed essentially part of your point.
Was that
Yeah.
this Minneapolis is the kind of place where if it was ever going to happen, it would happen here.
Yeah. I was in that war, you know. I was there. No, I have some
sometimes
documentation
feel as
here.
if I was.
I actually have some documentation. I don't know if you can see
Ooh, that must have
Whoa.
hurt.
this. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cool.
I was doomed to work in government for a number of years by this spell
that
here.
must have been a bad one.
That was
Yeah.
tough, yeah. It took somebody in Farthingale to get me out of it, but it was a lot of fun. So, other current projects? What are you working on these days, Mr. Shetterly?
Well, the thing that I'm actually working on now won't be out until next year. It's a book called Dogland that is based on, in part on my experiences in 1961, 1962, and things that my folks did, which was part of what I thought was interesting about what Larry was saying about the kinds of concerns that he's getting now as a writer. But the next thing that will actually be showing up is a sequel to this book. This is Elsewhere, which got the Minnesota Book Award for Fantasy and Science Fiction in 1992, something like that. And the sequel is
Somewhere
called Never Never. And the hardcover's been out, the paper's showing up this fall.
Oh, good for you.
So I hope everybody will buy 83 copies of that.
83?
Each.
Each,
Yeah.
okay.
Cheaper by the case, remember this.
Fair enough.
You know,
Stocking
but I find that my interests are sort of moving more towards the real world. I mean, it's not that I think of the stronger forms of fantasy as a different world, because you're essentially writing about characters that feel real to you. But as I get older, I have more and more appreciation for how weird the world is already. You know,
Don't we all?
the wonderful thing about research is that you discover that no, there are stranger things than you can imagine out there if you look for them.
We've got about a minute and a half left here. Let me ask each of you, this is a pet question of mine. Here I have a published author sitting next to me, present company accepted. Who do you like to read? What's a good read for Larry Sutton?
Oh, God, tons of stuff. I mean, I can never answer that question directly. There are thousands of writers I
Eclectic.
love to read. Sorry, pass. Can't
Okay.
Oh,
mean
that's
to
not
put you
fair. That's no fair. Think about your bookshelves and tell
You
me
go
what I ought to
ahead.
We'll
read.
get back to you
Go ahead.
quickly.
Oh, heavens.
In or outside the genre, whatever.
Almost all of the rest of the Minneapolis authors
Yeah.
I admire all of them, and I go crazy over most of them.
Guy named
John M. Ford. John M. Ford is
Wonderful.
terrific.
Okay, you said that together, so
Yep.
he must be
Right.
someone to grab.
I just finished a collaboration with Stephen Brust on a historical epistolary novel set in 1849 England that reminded me about all the things about Steve's books that I like.
get
And it
to
was
be
great
part of
fun
it.
to be able to make one of them.
Yeah.
Who else do I read?
Let me get
We've
over to
both
Will. We
been
got
reading
to.
Patrick
John
O'Brien
Crowley.
lately, who's the who does a series of sea novels that are
Yeah.
That
absolutely
long,
wonderful.
long series.
Yeah, there's about
100?
18,
Yeah,
20
they're wonderful.
books.
They're just
Been
wonderful.
hearing about him. Okay, back to Larry.
Oh,
Any-
just in this vein, I'll say I love the old sort of spooky fantasists like Arthur Machen and
Oh, okay.
Algernon
Yeah.
Blackwood
Okay.
are two names that pop into my mind.
Thanks a lot. Folks, we're out of time. We could talk a lot more. Good luck with your upcoming projects. Thanks for
you.
being on the show.
Thank you.
Nice to have you all here. Well, next up, we'll bring you a look at the Smithsonian Institution's National Traveling Exhibition, Beyond Category. This is about the musical genius of Duke Ellington. It's an exhibit on display at the downtown Minneapolis Public Library. It'll be up through September 7th. So we had the opportunity to go preview the exhibit, which features photographs, historical data, and an interactive video display. And we got to speak with Walter Gegner, who's the head of the library's art and music department. And it's here in Minneapolis, and we think you should go see it. Take a look.
Don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. It don't mean a thing, all you gotta do is swing. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm every little thing you've got.
The library tries to emphasize the multicultural aspects of its exhibits and collections. I think that we want to try to broaden the perspective and participation of the library in every aspect of the community, and I think that this is in particular highlighting one of the most creative and talented proponents of African American music in the United States. I think really addresses that very well.
Touch the musician you would like to meet. Duke Ellington typically led his orchestra from the piano, feeding his players ideas, rhythmically energizing them, and skillfully accompanying their solos. To see and hear Duke Ellington on the piano, touch Ellington Solos.
Smithsonian Institution has launched a new program of traveling portable exhibitions around the country. It's called the Sites Program for Traveling Exhibition. And we had originally applied for the first exhibition in that series, which came last year, and now this is the second of them. We had a good record with the first, and they awarded the second one to us. We applied because our library has such an outstanding collection of music materials. We have a large collection of old sheet music, a large collection of African American music and jazz in particular. I think the Smithsonian selected us as their site because we have such a thriving music community in the Twin Cities that extends back to the 19th century, as well as a creative and thriving African American music scene in the Twin Cities as well.
They say.
Now again, the Duke Ellington exhibit will be on display at the downtown Minneapolis Public Library through September 7th during regular library hours. For more information about associated concerts, lectures, and other events, you can call the library at 372-6520. And now, here's a guest I'm very excited to have on the show. I'm going to guarantee that this gentleman has seen more theater than anyone watching this show. Merle Loppnow, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Now, we met through a mutual friend, Donna Norberg, who's been a guest on this show before. And before I met you, she said, Merle knows theater, Merle loves theater, Merle has taught theater, you know a lot of people. What is it about theater, Merle, that you are so passionate about?
I really don't know. I just enjoyed it. I got my first taste of theater when I was 2 years old, so.
Okay.
And I played a little angel.
You were a little angel at 2 years old?
Yes.
Now, do you have memory of that? I mean,
yeah, well, yes.
See, I think I was 4 or 5 before I have
No, I
4 or 5
have
memories.
several memories of
Good for
my
you.
2s, 3s.
Well, and then in your chronicles, you pointed out that the first play as such that you saw was Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yeah, that was in a tent in famous Herman, Minnesota now with their bachelors.
Oh, that's right,
It
yes.
wasn't very famous then at that time. And the population was about half of what it is now.
Yeah. And you're from out that away, aren't you?
I was born in Herman,
Okay.
March 19th, 1909 at 5:30 in the morning.
Now, if you have a memory
I don't
of
know.
that.
I don't have the memory of that.
But so you have some memories, though, of that particular tent show, the Uncle Tom,
Oh, yes,
at the
yes.
age of 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very impressed by that. And you and I were chatting at lunch some
Right.
weeks ago that you not only have seen much legitimate theater, but other elements of theater and drama and performance that I find fascinating, like Toby shows and vaudeville and things like that. So you've carried on this love with pretty much anything that's
Well,
on stage.
it's sort of, see, the movies didn't come into existence until the end of the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they started to come in, your theater started to change.
Yes.
And then when I moved to the Twin Cities in 1922, that's when I really hit the street running so far as
Yes.
theater was concerned.
And you've seen a lot of shows on what are now renovated spaces, such as the State and the Orpheum Theater in downtown
Right,
Minneapolis.
right.
Yeah. So you were saying.
See, the state was built in about 1920, I think it was.
Sounds about right, yeah.
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 And used to come over, I lived in St. Paul, would come over and see the movies, and they would usually have some guest stars, or then see the Orpheum was, they had an Orpheum in St. Paul and an Orpheum in Minneapolis, and they would have vaudeville, all of the stars of that time, everybody from Trixie Faganza on to Will Rogers and all like that.
Well, that sounds great. You had, amongst the other interesting parts of your career, a fairly long stint at the University of Minnesota.
Well, I didn't have the money to go to day school, so I started as a student at the university in 1931. But I had season tickets for the football games from 1929 until 1977.
Well, so there's a priority right there. Very good. So you saw some of the football.
I saw
in
some of
its
the
heyday.
good football.
That's right.
Yes.
Sandy Stevens and the whole, yeah.
Right. Yes, I saw two of the, I went to the Rose Bowl both years that they were on too.
Good for you.
But, and then after World War II, I finished my degree in August of 1949, but I went on the staff the 1st of January 1949, and I stayed there until they threw me out when I was too old to work for the state of Minnesota.
Well, and a shame they did, but you were working particularly in theater. I mean, you were involved
Yes,
with,
I was.
what part of the theater, university theater?
Well, I participated in all parts of it, from acting to directing to stage managing, props, makeup, the whole business. But my longest stint was the managing my title was, what was it? Assistant to the Director of the University of Minnesota Theater and lecturer. So I taught a class in arts management.
Oh, all right.
And that I had from 1954 until I retired in 1977.
Well, Charlie Moore, whom I believe was one of your students, was telling me that you made a point to tell people that it's not a box office.
It's a ticket office. You're selling tickets.
Yes.
The box business goes back to the Shakespeare's time, when the orchestra, what we call now, was where all of the poor people went. That was open to them to go in there. And then the theater was surrounded by boxes. And you see, you bought your box seat then to outside. And also, following with the early circuses and things, the ticket seller would stand on a box. See that?
Oh, see, I never knew that.
Yeah, and so but that's held over into our.
But in the current usage, it's a misnomer, really.
Right,
it's
is.
A ticket office.
Yeah, it's a ticket office because they're selling tickets.
Merle, the other day, you and I were chatting. We actually ran into each other at the street. You walk so many miles every day. I know
5.
that. 5 miles every day. And we got to talking about what I think is a very important question. With all the theater you've seen, I asked you, what do you think of the current state of theater today? And you have some opinions about it.
Well, it has become especially the professional theater has become what I would call overproduced. There's too much scenery, too much technical side. They're trying to compete with the cinema and television and all that, and they can't do it on a stage. I mean, there's from Shakespeare, the play is the thing.
Play is the thing, right.
And so I object to, well, as I mentioned the other day, when somebody mentions Phantom of the Opera, I don't think about the play. I think about the falling chandelier and the grand drape, when that fellow was spectacular, but it didn't add anything so far as the play was concerned.
That's right. So you're looking more for the writing, the
Right.
directing and the acting,
Right.
and less of the ambience of it all.
And I go to all kinds of theater, from the professional to college and community theater, children's theater. I directed several children's theater plays at the University of Minnesota back in the years. And of course, the university is one reason we have all of the theater in the Twin Cities now.
Indeed. Later on, in fact, our next guest is going to be Tom Trow, who's at the university, and we're going to be talking about the great contribution the university has made to Minnesota culture. And just within theater alone, I mean, the alumni, the Showboat as a facility.
I was at the Showboat last night.
That's right, which sadly Minneapolis has lost to St. Paul, but it's still here.
Right.
You were involved with the institutionalization of the Centennial Showboat?
I was the first one to see the boat.
Ah.
I went down to New Orleans the day after Christmas in 1957, I think it was, to inspect the boat to see if it was feasible to turn it into a theater, because it was the inspection boat for the Corps of Engineers on the Mississippi and Ohio River. A lot of former presidents had made their trips on that boat and things of that kind. So I spent the week down there, and then, of course, New Year's Eve in New Orleans. But
sidebar.
Then I got all the plans and brought them back, and then we determined that we could convert the 1/3 of the boat, the center third of the boat, into a theater.
Merle, we're just about out of time now, and I'd like to have you come back and talk more about your career and thoughts about plays. But I have to ask you this. I've read your chronicles, the Loppnow Chronicles, or at least one edition of it. Can you rattle off how many plays you've seen since 1914?
I've seen, 7,881, I believe it is, something like that. And then I've seen 76 plays so far this year.
And so add that to that.
77 counting. I didn't get that on my list last night, the Showboat last night.
Oh, just last night. Merle, it's been a pleasure to have you on. I'd like to have you come back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Merle Loppnow. A real pleasure. Well, as mentioned, up next, Tom Trow from the University of Minnesota. But first, a fascinating artifacts factoid. We'll be right back.
The giraffe said to the nightingale, he said, I'll get you in the clear moonlight, that sun you can be sure of, and you can fly away past the clouds and you.
Well, and we're back. Actually, we're back with an old friend of mine and a colleague who is over at the University of Minnesota. He is the Director of Community and Cultural Affairs at the College of Liberal Arts. Tom Trow, thanks for being on the show.
Nice to be here.
Now, I got your title correct?
That's it.
Now, for the sake of folks out there in TV land who don't know what the Director of Community and Cultural Affairs does, what does that entail?
Well, I'm in the College of Liberal Arts, which includes the social sciences, the fine arts, and the humanities. And in this community, we have a lot of counterparts in the nonprofit world and in the education community and with government agencies. And what I do is work as a kind of middle person between the university and all of those entities out in the community to keep an eye out for where we can exchange resources for the sake of our
great.
Students and the work that our faculty do.
Yeah. Must be an interesting place to be because of those connections into all kinds of spheres. I mean, the academic sphere, the cultural, the artistic world, and, as you say, the educational.
Endlessly interesting.
Yeah.
I wish there were 10 more of me.
Yeah, I bet you could use a few clones or something like that. Well, and this really sets up the reason I've been so excited to have you on the show, because I think to anybody that's watching this show, that means they're sitting here in the Twin Cities somewhere. The University of Minnesota has been instrumental in developing what we think of and we maybe take for granted as the art, the culture of Minnesota. I mean, historically, Northrop Auditorium was probably ground zero. The Minneapolis Symphony, the Metropolitan Opera. There's a dance series that continues to this day. They're bringing in great dance. But there's so much more that goes on there. Maybe you could just set a little picture of what's there now, what people come to the university or to either to learn or to share.
I think you're right that we tend as a community to take for granted the richness of this arts community. It's just terrific. Internationally recognized as being a leader in America. But the university is one of the reasons that's come to be. And I think that the departments that we have in dance and music, theater arts, creative writing, visual arts, etc., contribute to that a lot. Both because we generate a lot of knowledgeable people as they take classes in those fields, but also because we train some of the folks that become the stars as they go on in their careers.
Sure. Go down to Hennepin Avenue and see an arts commissioned bench by Tom Rhodes, who's involved with the studio
one
arts.
of our faculty members. That's right. Our arts faculty tend to be pretty well represented in the galleries around town.
Yes. And our previous guest on this show was Merle Loppnow, who had a long career at the University Theater. And maybe just because of the glamour of theater, especially when people go into films and national level of performing, there are a lot of great alumni, well-known names that came out of the university.
Oh, yeah. In fact, Robert Vaughn, the man from U.N.C.L.E., and Peter Graves, who still comes back and helps us out every once in a while, does some work at the university. In fact, Lonnie Anderson was here.
You said something interesting about her. She started out as a brunette and had her first...
She was Miss Robbinsdale, I think, or Rosedale. But she went on and became a blonde later in her career. But
okay, you're going to show us an image of that at some point.
Why don't I do that now?
Oh, might as well.
Sure, sure. This is a shot of Lonnie Anderson on stage on the Showboat. And next to her, over to the right, also dancing, is the woman who was on Lou Grant.
Oh, Linda Kelsey.
Linda Kelsey.
Sure, sure. And
somewhere in this photo, too, is John Cranny, who now runs the Children's Theater. So
now, what I'd like to know is he also dancing there with...
Not in this shot.
That's great. That's well, that's a fascinating shot to have all three of them who certainly went on to prominence there.
Well, and in fact, we keep contributing to the local community as well in an important way. 5 of the artistic directors of local theaters are alumni from the Theater Arts Department.
Right. Well, certainly Cranny, obviously.
Yep. And Lou Bellamy over at Penumbra, and Bill Bartlett at Cricket.
Now that I didn't know.
The new person, I think his name is Paulus, Paluso, rather, who's going to run Great American History Theater.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Actually, one of the people from June Lun is also.
I had no idea.
You could call her an artistic director as well. She's part of a group.
Right.
And so it goes.
Well, and the university also has been... well, let's stay on the topic of the Showboat, because while it had been anchored there at the Minneapolis campus for years, basically since the Minnesota Centennial.
Since 1958.
Just recently, it tootled downstream a little bit.
We're really excited about that. St. Paul has invited us to come have the Showboat at Harriet Island and be part of the riverfront development in downtown St. Paul. And it was an invitation we couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
We need to renovate the Showboat, and so this is coupled with a campaign to fundraise to do that. And St. Paul's been just a terrific partner in helping us make that happen.
Yeah, and I think you've got an image of the Showboat, at least from afar or something.
That's right. This is a shot of the Showboat moving downstream.
That's right.
Eventually, when we got around the corner, we got joined by 60 boats.
You had a flotilla.
We had a flotilla, including all of the paddle wheelers in town that could move.
What fun.
And so that was in June, and we've been parked there ever since. And now we're in the business of raising money and putting on the summer show in the Chautauqua tent on Raspberry Island.
The newly named Raspberry Island.
Newly renamed Raspberry
Island.
And
the Showboat is a great place to see, and I always associate melodramas and those great theatrical productions.
That's probably what it's always going to be. We might do a little bit of exhibition in the daytime, use it as a kind of museum site for interpretation of the river or the St. Paul history, that sort of thing. It's a very nice venue, and when we get it fixed up again, I think we're going to find some creative new uses for it, too.
Tom, another great contribution the university's been making to the cultural life of the Twin Cities are some fairly significant building projects.
Well, we've been lucky. You've seen the Wiseman Art Museum go up recently, which is a stunning piece of architecture. Like it or hate it, it's transformed the look of the river at the university.
We did a location piece a little over a year ago here where Lyndell King was nice enough to let us go behind the scenes and take a look at that, and it is a lovely building.
And right across the river from it, and the two are easily seen from each other, is its counterpart in music, the Ted Mann Concert Hall.
Which has been getting good reviews for its sound, I understand.
Oh, terrific. It really is the best acoustics.
And you've got an image here, a still image anyhow.
I do. I don't know if you'll be able to get a good look at this.
Yeah, if you just hold that up there, we'll have the crew do their best there. Actually, that's a rather striking image there with the entrance, and there's a wonderful curtain wall inside.
There is, and it's a beautiful space for having receptions, that sort of thing. I don't know if this is can be easy to see or not, but at any rate, the new Ted Mann Concert Hall is, as you say, just terrific acoustically, and that's where it's.
And it's nice that they share the river there and literally face each other across. That's good.
Also, we've got a future project coming up for dance. Another strong program at the University of Minnesota. We almost eliminated dance a few years ago, and a lot of people put a lot of hard work into not only bringing us back so that we've got dance as a part of the curriculum, but making it one of the best dance programs in America. we're just hearing now from some high school counselors nationally who are recommending the program over and above most other dance programs in America.
Well, congratulations.
We've got 60 majors coming in next fall, and the promise of a new dance building on the West Bank. We're
Well, that's news.
going to convert a church on 21st Avenue and 5th Street, and Our Lady of Perpetual Responsibility or some such. I think we're going to rename it Our
Perpetual
Lady
Motion.
Perpetual Motion would be a
That's
fine
great.
idea,
Sure.
and it'll be the home of the dance program.
And is there a new studio arts structure in the works? Have I heard about
We're
that?
going to have to do that. Our studio arts building really
time,
does,
yeah.
as any of the 1,000 students that come through there every year will attest, we need a new building. And
Yeah.
I think that it's now called the Department of Art, but I think the Department of Art is due to have a new building soon as well. So we're seeing a lot of changes, a lot of improvements in the arts.
Tom, we've only got a moment or two left, and I just wanted to reiterate, depending on the generation somebody's from, I mean, when I first came to Minnesota, there were people like John Berryman teaching in English, Alan Downs was doing filmmaking, Jerry Liebling was doing photography, and it just keeps going on. You mentioned some of the studio artists that are there now, and these great facilities. What's the likelihood, how likely do you think the university will be able to continue this great contribution? I mean, are the arts as an element, a component of the university in trouble, or are you getting the support you need?
Actually, what I'm finding is that departments are really excited about working more and more with the community. The theater arts, for instance, has a direct relationship with the Guthrie, and they audition acting students together so that the Guthrie will place them and help them find work during their tenure here as students. That's true in music. We have a conducting program that's unmatched nationally in terms of our student conductors are actually on the podium at the Minnesota Orchestra, the Minnesota Opera, the SPCO. It's part of their career while they're here.
Admirable.
We're making sure that our students get a lot of experience when they're out in the community, and they're working with people like Dominic Argento, who's a Pulitzer Prize winner. We have nationally known people that have been here before in the past. You might not have mentioned Robert Penn Warren.
Well,
in
that's
fact,
right.
used to
Thank
teach
you,
here
yes.
to you, and our creative
Yes.
writing program uses about 18 different writers from the community who are all published and active
So
writers.
very strong bonds between the community and the university.
And that's increasing. And
Yeah.
that'll continue to grow.
Well, I've got a hunch you're a big part of making that happen.
It's part of the fun of my job. It's true.
Tom, thank you very much for being on the show. Learned a lot.
All right.
It's great. Always interesting. Now, Janet will be back to talk with Pete Rhodes and Yolanda Bruce about the Minneapolis Music Expo 95, but not until we hear some music first. Here's Yolanda Bruce of Moore by Four, along with Tom West on electric piano.
One early morning, as I was walking, I met a man and we started talking. He took me home to have a few sips, and all I had was a mint julep. One mint julep was the cause of it all. Then when he came, he said, "Listen, baby, I dig you, but I've got me a lady." He grabbed the bottle, he took a few sips, then he grabbed my body and kissed me with his lips. One mint julep was the cause of it all. Well, the lights were burning low down in the parlor, went through the kitchen door. Up popped my father, he said, "I saw you when you kissed my daughter. Better wed her right now or face slaughter." I don't remember what I was doing. I had to marry or I'd face ruin. A mint julep, one mint julep, I swear all I had was one mint julep. One mint julep was the cause of it all. lights were burning low. Down in the parlor, went through the kitchen door. Up popped my father, he said, I saw you when you kissed my daughter. Better wed her right now, or I face slaughter. I don't remember what I was doing. I had to marry the man or I'd face ruin, I'm sorry. One mint julep, mama, one mint julep, I swear all I had was a one mint julep. One mint julep was the cause of it all. One mint julep was the cause of it all. That's right.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks, Yolanda. Wonderful music. Mint Julep, that was great. And thanks for bringing Tom West along with you to play.
Oh, no problem.
It was wonderful. Thanks very much. And with me here also is Pete Rhodes, who is running a big music conference over Labor Day weekend. Is that right? August 31st through September 3rd.
That's it.
Okay, at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Minneapolis. The whole title of this thing is the MBMA Music Expo 95 Music Business Conference.
Right.
So it encompasses a lot of stuff, and I would like you to just kind of give us an overview of this event, so if somebody is interested in coming, they can know what they will find.
Well, we got a lot this year. We're involving the city this year, and we're stretching it out. It's always involved the city, but we're stretching it out and making it more of a family event as well as an artist development conference. So I say that to say that there are a lot of things that happen for just everybody to come and enjoy. We're entitled this year Experiences in Music, and what that means is simply that you can come and see the best in jazz, the best in blues, best in gospel, R&B, and other genres that really encompasses the black music culture, which Minneapolis and St. Paul has a wealth of. I mean, we're known nationally for that. So August 31st through September 3rd, all in that downtown area, you can get a chance to come out and see some of the best and some of the rising stars in those areas of music.
You want to tell us some of the artists that are going to be there?
Well, this year, we're saluting the Twin Cities Black Music Educators and Paisley Park Enterprises at our 14th Annual Awards Program. Some of the guests there, of course, are our alumni, the Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and Alexander O'Neill is going to be part of the program this year. We have some acts that are coming in from the national level that will be performing as well. And we'll be announcing those as we get it all solid in and down pat. You know, we're in the entertainment business, so it could change. We could get somebody like Barry White one day, and the next day it'll be Isaac Hayes, who knows. But we got a lot of educational workshops. That is the focus of the program. And this year, too, a lot of arts vendors that will be at the Hyatt Regency throughout the 4 days and throughout the program throughout August 31st through September 3rd, Labor Day weekend.
Yolanda, you mentioned to me that you've attended the conference and some of the showcases and stuff before. Tell me a little bit about it. What's it like going to this conference?
Well, it's quite exciting. It really is. It was really a blessing, first of all, to go and watch other people go through it before, if I ever decide to showcase myself at some point. It's always nice to watch other people go through it first. So I attended one particular workshop was on your demo tape, how to prepare a good demo tape, what are the A&R representatives looking for, and that sort of thing. So to sit back in the back of the room and listen to other people's demo tapes being critiqued was really an experience. I mean, because you get a wide range. You know, there was people who had jazz, people who had R&B, hip hop, different kinds of things, and it was really helpful to know exactly what people are looking for in terms of like the length of the demo tape, what you want to have on the first 15 seconds of the demo tape, you know, those kinds of things. You know, you think your whole song is wonderful, but then they let you know that within the first 15 seconds they are going to decide whether they want to hear this or not.
It's kind of a scary thought.
And it was very scary. And, you know, you could see the people just kind of sitting there. You know, what are these people going to think, you know? And you know, the participants themselves gave some really good feedback, you know, to, boy, that was really good. I hope the people liked it. Whether they liked it or not, we'd buy it, you know,
Right.
and which was really encouraging to people. I also was able to see some of the live showcases where people actually came with either a band or a track show to perform for the A&R representatives, which was really, it was really interesting to see the new talent, what, you know, what the people are doing now as they're trying to make it in the music business. And it was fun just to be in the midst of a lot of black people who are doing good and positive things in Minneapolis. And to realize that people outside of Minneapolis think that we are just the musical mecca. And you know, when you live here, you kind of forget.
Take it for granted.
You take it for granted that Jimmy and Terry are here, and you know them, and you see them at the grocery store, and you can say hi. You know, you know, you've known them all your life. It's not a big issue. But when other people move here, and they get to see that for themselves, and they get to see just the wonderful way that Minneapolis is situated and how beautiful the city is, and just how people here get along musically, and just how rich the and the depth of the music that is here is just phenomenal. And I went there and I took it for granted. I was like, oh yeah, we do this. We are good. We have this. And you know, you should be nervous coming to Minneapolis because we sang here.
Yeah. Well, it sounds from you who've been to the event, it really sounds, Pete, like what you've tried to do here is to celebrate what we have and to teach people a lot of information that they need in the business side of the music business.
Exactly, and as Yolanda pointed on, we have a lot of music here in the Twin City area, and those individuals that are coming in are enjoying it to the fullest. And what we want to try and do this year, as we have in previous years, where we really want people to come out and enjoy the music that is actually right here. Of course, we're importing people, and you'll see artists from all over the country throughout those 4 days. We start out at the Mall of America on August 31st with a great singers showcase, where we'll showcase some of the greatest vocalists and best vocalists in the Twin Cities and from around the country. And later that evening, we do Fashions Meets Music, a new concept, a new twist, but show how fashion and music are intertwined. And it's also a benefit for the Seed Academy. We're doing more of those things, and that should be really exciting. And Friday, of course, the awards program. And then from there, we've got a gospel youth showcase this year on Saturday, which is free to the public, a lot of free events. And we're excited about our first outdoor event, which will end the program on September 3rd at PV Plaza with Rhapsody on the Plaza, Jazz and Blues outdoor showcase. So it's free. And so we're trying to make sure that the residents of the Twin City area get a chance to come out and own this music, the various genres of black music, and the artists and talent that is involved in it. Give them a little support and enjoy yourself at the same time.
Tell me, when you're bringing the record executives in to listen to the music and to the people that are showcasing and doing their deal, what do you hear from them? What are their impressions? And why do they come here?
Well, they come to the Twin Cities for this program and others like it because they're looking to make money. They're looking for the next great talent, and they find it here in various genres. So you can look for a lot of different kinds of artists in one place, kind of like cherry picking artists. So we'll have A&R individuals coming for our gospel. We'll have A&R people coming who represent just R&B or jazz or blues, and so those companies come out because they know that they'll get a good crop of talent from all over the country coming in for this program here in Minneapolis, which is, by the way, a music and movie capital now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Boast.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did it all.
You've been very helpful. And that's another twist too, where we're finding more and more individuals. This year we're having a panel that talks about film and music in film and some of the rights associated with it.
Right. Well, you know, video has become such a big part of the music industry, where everybody markets their music via the music video, and you know, that's a big part of it now. So it sounds like a great event. I want to make sure we've gotten, we know you got the educational side, you've got conferences, good opportunities for networking.
Good opportunities for networking, and we're doing a lot of arts vendors. We want to ask the vendors out there if you have wares and stuff to get involved with the program this year. We still have space available, and you can give us a call on that. So you can. We're noticing how the downtown is getting more culturally and artsy with a lot of the different shops now, and so we want to have those folks involved with us as well.
Sure. How many people do you expect?
We will see over 5,000 people over 4 days, maybe more, because with the Mall of America doing that showcase there and the outdoor showcase, we may double that this year.
Oh, great. And thank you, Yolanda, for being here, for singing.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, it was great, great.
Did the A&R rep see me before?
We're going to make sure.
Okay.
Thanks again, Pete.
Thanks, Jerry.
I do want to mention a phone number if anybody wants to find out about the Minneapolis Music Expo 95, 341-2447. Phil will be back with me to wrap up the show right after another clip from the trailer for War for the Oaks.
To show me the way to get on in town. I rode a gray horse, was called a gray man and gray tail.
Yeah. But Janet, that was a good show.
It was a good show.
I really enjoyed it. It's nice to have Pete Rhodes back.
Yeah, he's
Good old
been with
friend.
me every year since I've done this show.
Is that right? Yeah. Nice guy.
He's
Nice
a good
guy.
guy.
What a
It's an
nice
event.
song by Yolanda.
She's a singer.
Lots of fun.
She's a singer.
Well, you know, I got to show you something here. I grabbed this out of the Wall Street Journal last month. Okay, and it's entitled "Attention Pagan Loft Dwellers."
That's you.
Yeah, well, probably us over here. And what this is, it's a tongue-in-cheek application form to the NEA if and after the federal government cuts out funding for the arts. And so they've got an application form here, and we just thought we'd share a few here.
Yes, this is the all-new National Endowment for the Arts application for funding. And,
Yeah, pick a category.
Well, of course, I would go initially to the media arts category if I was somebody who was applying for a grant from the NEA. How would you describe your projected film or videotape? A, pornographic. B, deeply symbolic and
pornographic.
C, sensitive yet brutally honest study of troubled relationships and pornographic.
And pornographic.
Every one of these ends in
Right. Well, here, I like this one under
Yeah.
literature. What is the nature of your project? A long, epic poem that will be read in a dank basement somewhere to people who look like extras in a Fellini film.
Well, perfect. And
I know a
then,
guy who did that project.
and then, of course, they always ask you for your target audience. And, you know, the one that I would check would be people who use the word deep a lot.
Yeah. So,
Right.
and then of course it ends up here with a section just for government use.
Yeah.
Anyhow, thank you, Wall Street Journal. We appreciate that very much. You know, and actually, on kind of a serious note, next month it's going to be a very good conversation because we are actually going to have U.S. Representative Martin Sabo, who represents this district here. He's the ranking member of the House Budget Committee. He's going to be here in the studio talking about federal funding for the arts because this fall is crunch time. So,
That's a very important segment.
Yeah.
And exciting that you were able to get him to come.
yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Of course, we have our events calendar coming up, too. And that's the end of Artifacts. Thanks for watching.
Yep, that's Janet Zahn.
That's right. And that's Phill Lindsay.
We'll see you next time on Artifacts.
The goose flies past the setting sun, comes roasting in her breast. Sleeping Beauty lays her head 100 years to rest. And feet by foot, giant bumps to my dark princess. witches popped into the oven, rising into cake. The Swamp Queen